Although I don't know too much about the London and South Western Railway, I'm still interested in the locomotives from said company. For my first proper review of an LSWR design, we're looking at one of the more unusual examples as she appears in Train Simulator. Said unusual design is the T14 class, and although I like the T14, I don't consider myself to be a massive fan. But first, a brief history on the T14. This was a class of 460 tender engines designed by Dugald Drummond and built at Eastleigh Works in 1911 and 1912, but curiously, only 10 of these things were ever built. At the time of their construction, the LSWR needed more powerful locomotives to haul their passenger services, and it didn't help that Drummond's previous 460 designs were falling short of expectations. The T14s happened to be his final 460 design. These engines were initially based at Nine Elms depot in London, and gained the nickname paddle boxes due to their rather unusual wheel splashes over the driving wheels. Initially, they hauled express trains to Salisbury or Bournemouth, but for a variety of reasons, they proved inadequate for the top job. Urie's N15 King Arthur class of 1918 soon replaced the T14s on the primary express duties, and proved to be more successful in general. Incidentally, I got the N15 to stop in the right place on the first attempt at recording this shot. Usually I had to do it at least 2 or 3 times. In the early 1930s, after the LSWR became part of the Southern Railway, Richard Maunsell, the Southern's chief mechanical engineer at the time, set about rebuilding the T14s in an effort to prolong their working lives. The engines lost their paddle box wheel splashes in favour of a simple raised running plate, and also received mechanical lubricators and Maunsell's own design of superheater. But even then, there was little improvement in performance, with the engines continuing to suffer from high coal and water consumption. As for the extended smoke boxes, that was a modification carried out under Robert Urie prior to the rebuild under Maunsell. In 1940, locomotive number 440 needed to have her chimney replaced, but ended up receiving a short stovepipe chimney due to the lack of any spare Drummond ones. The stovepipe chimney improved the engine's performance to the point where all but one of the other T14s received it too, as they went through their overhauls at Eastleigh. The first T14 to be withdrawn was number 458, but this was due to her being damaged in an air raid over Nine Elms in 1940. All of her classmates survived the war to become part of the British Railways fleet in 1948, but they didn't last too long in BR ownership, and only 2 of them ever carried BR numbers. 30461, originally just 461, was the final survivor, not being withdrawn until June 1951. Sadly, none of these fascinating locomotives have survived into preservation. The LSWR T14 class was released for TS Classic in November 2023, having been modelled by Caledonia Works. The full price is £20, or $44.68 NZD, but I got the pack for 40% off as part of CW's 2024 Christmas sale. Incidentally, I also picked up the Great Eastern Railway T26 class alongside the T14, but at the time of this video's production, I do not intend to make a dedicated video for the T26 anytime soon. In any case, the T14 cost me $11.99, as opposed to $12.82. £11.99 is equivalent to $26.80 NZD. One day, Mara was parked at Miacombe Sheds with Ed, Sid, Dilla Tripp and Barry for company. The shed staff liked seeing the T14, but the other engines were absolutely furious over not being the centres of attention, especially Sid with his borderline cursed repaint. Anyway, I can't help thinking that the T14 is one of the strangest looking British 460s I've ever laid eyes on, regardless of which condition you've got her in. I'd go so far as to say that she's just about on par with the experimental LMS locomotive number 6399, otherwise known as Fury. Now if only we could get 6399 in TS too. As for what you get with this pack from CW, we'll start off with the liveries and model variants. These range from the engines in their original condition to the rebuilt engines in a transitional British Railways black. The full list is as follows: LSWR Drummond Royal Green, LSWR Uri Royal Green, still in original condition, LSWR Uri Royal Green with the extended smokebox, LSWR Presto Green, or if the engine was a magician, Hey Presto Green, Uri's Presto Green with Southern Railway decals, Southern Railway Maunsell Green, SR Maunsell Green post-rebuild, SR Maunsell Green with no E prefix on the tender, SR Wartime Black with sunshine lettering, and BR Transitional Black, still with the sunshine lettering, as opposed to the 10 cents lettering. My favourite liveries out of that selection are LSWR Drummond Royal Green and British Railways Transitional Black, the latter because of the unique sunshine lettering, and I'm a bit partial to those BR Transitional liveries. Personally, I prefer the T14s in their original condition over how they looked with the extended smokebox, and especially their rebuilt condition. In any case, the reason why there aren't any early emblem or late crest BR variants included in this pack is simply because none of the real T14s survived long enough to get proper BR liveries. The T14 is built on SimNation's Locomotion 2.0 scripting, but the list of features is too long for me to read it all out in this video, so I'll refer you to the product description on CW's website. The staple features that I've come to expect from CW products are all here. These include the numerous cab camera views, which I'm currently demonstrating, the fully functional cab, Performance Mode Pro, realistic performance physics, and fire intensity synchronized with the exhaust beat. Although the T14 doesn't come with any scenarios, she does at least come with a decent selection of quick drive consists, but the list of add-ons required for said consists is so long that, rather than listing it off here, I'll refer you to CW's website again, where they have provided links to all the required packs under the T14's listing. As for what this thing is like to drive, it's interesting, to say the least. For starters, the reverser works in a really strange way. I initially thought it was a normal lever reverser, but in this case, you have to wait until the little white bug moves to whichever position you want the cutoff set to, and the main reverser lever is kind of spring-loaded. According to the manual, this locomotive has an advanced boiler heating system, so after loading a scenario, you'll need to wait for a few minutes to let the fire warm up before setting off. The fire mass should be maintained at between 900 and 910 pounds, as marked on the F5 heads-up display, while the water level should be maintained at between 70 and 90%, as marked on the F4 HUD. The driving instructions are very similar to what I've seen in the manuals for the Caledonian Railway 956 Class 460 and London, Brighton and South Coast Railway G Class 222, both of which have already appeared in their own videos on this channel. The T14 also features Simple Mode, which is toggled on or off by pressing Ctrl A. I normally drive this thing in advanced mode myself, but at least simple mode is there for people who prefer it. It's reminiscent of the older steam locomotive models in TS, such as the RSC era LNER V2, Great Western Railway Hall, and standard version of the Mesh Tools LMS Ginty, for 3 random examples. All 3 of these models are at least 10 years old, but personally, I think the Ginty still holds up after all this time. The same can't really be said for the Hall in V2. Thinking back to the T14, her sounder set was made up with audio that was apparently recorded from the preserved N15 number 30777 Sir Lemuel. This is understandable given the lack of T14s in preservation. A suitable route for the T14 to run on is Dorset Coast by Golden Age developments, but I also like to drive this locomotive on the West of England main line, a route that I prefer over DC. No, not that DC. Or that one. Oh, so we've got a comedian here, have we? Anyway, I should also mention yet another important difference between the original and rebuilt T14s. Namely the normal working boiler pressure, which is 200 psi on the original condition engines with saturated boilers, and 175 psi on the rebuilt engines with superheated boilers. At the end of the day, I've enjoyed driving and inspecting the London and South Western Railway T14, and can easily recommend this locomotive to anyone who likes Southern Region steamers. I can also understand why Dark DJ likes this class as much as he does, and incidentally, one of my own favourite steam locomotives, namely the New Zealand Railways JA class, happens to be in TS Classic too. The catch is that this thing is way too advanced for my liking, and simple mode would be a much appreciated addition. And the less said about my frustration with the Midland Line's wildly inconsistent frame rates, the better. Thinking back to something much less anger-inducing, I think the T14 paddle box deserves a 7.8 out of 10.